Imagine being at an exciting 4th of July parade, surrounded by music, joy, and flags, when suddenly a masked killer starts attacking the participants. This is the real story of a parade that turned into a true nightmare. Are you ready to hear about the deadly parade? Press play and join us. It was a perfect summer day. The small town of Brooksville was decorated with flags, ribbons, and red, white, and blue balloons as residents prepared for the traditional 4th of July parade. The streets were crowded with families, children, and the elderly, all eager to celebrate America's Independence Day with joy and pride. Among the crowd were Alice and her son Michael. They were especially excited because this would be Michael's first parade. The atmosphere was contagious, with patriotic music playing in the background and smiles beaming on people's faces. The floats were ready, the scouts were practicing their steps, and the veterans marched proudly with their medals of honor. As the parade began, the crowd's energy grew. The local school band played enthusiastically, and the floats passed by slowly, showcasing their creativity and effort. Alice and Michael waved and clapped, feeling part of something bigger. But, unnoticed by anyone, a sinister figure was watching from afar. Dressed in a skull mask and a black cloak, the masked killer awaited the perfect moment to strike. He had meticulously planned, choosing this event to maximize terror and chaos. As the parade continued, some participants began to notice the masked figure moving through the shadows. At first, they thought it was just a joke or an elaborate costume, but soon realized something was very wrong. The figure seemed to move with deadly intent, following a predetermined path. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. The masked killer had attacked his first victim, a young scout handing out flags to the children. Panic spread quickly, and the crowd began to disperse in all directions. Alice grabbed Michael and tried to run, but the chaos made it difficult to find a safe escape route. The young scout fell to the ground, his uniform stained with blood. People around him paused for a moment, horrified, before realizing the gravity of the situation and starting to run. Screams echoed through the streets, and the sound of hurried footsteps mixed with the chaos. The masked killer continued his relentless attack, moving with terrifying precision. He stabbed randomly, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. Blood stained the streets, and screams of terror echoed in the air. The authorities, caught off guard, struggled to control the situation and protect the citizens. Alice, with Michael in her arms, ran into an alley, trying to find a safe place. But the killer seemed to be everywhere, his skull mask gleaming sinisterly in the sunlight. Every time she thought she had found a hiding place, he appeared again, closer and more threatening. In the midst of the chaos, some residents tried to confront the killer. A war veteran attempted to stop him but was quickly subdued. A desperate mother fought to protect her children, only to be brutally attacked. Alice, with her heart racing and her protective instinct in high gear, desperately sought an escape for Michael. As she ran, she saw other people being attacked. An elderly man was knocked down and stabbed, and a group of teenagers tried to fight back but was quickly overpowered. Alice knew she needed to find help, but it seemed the killer was always one step ahead. Alice and Michael found temporary shelter in an abandoned store, but they knew they couldn't stay there for long. The masked killer was hunting his prey, and they were the next targets. Breathing heavily, Alice tried to calm Michael, promising that everything would be okay, though she knew their chances were slim. They could hear the killer's footsteps outside, getting closer. Alice knew she had to do something to protect her son, but was terrified. When the footsteps finally stopped, she held her breath, expecting the worst. The masked figure finally found Alice and Michael. The confrontation was quick and brutal. Alice tried to fight, but was easily overpowered. The killer revealed his face, showing an expression of pure hatred and insanity. He whispered something inaudible before delivering the final blow. Michael, hidden, watched in horror as his mother fell. Michael tried to run but was captured by the killer. The masked figure looked at him with a cruel smile before taking him outside. Michael's screams echoed through the streets, mingling with the sounds of sirens and hurried footsteps. The massacre at the 4th of July parade left Brooksville in shock. The streets, once filled with joy and celebration, were now covered in blood and mourning. Authorities promised justice, but the masked killer disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a traumatized town and an orphaned child. The police launched an intense investigation, but every lead led to a dead end. The killer seemed to have meticulously planned everything, leaving few clues. The community, once united and joyful, was now filled with fear and distrust. Life in Brooksville was never the same. The 4th of July parade, once a symbol of unity and pride, became a painful memory. The town was marked by horror and loss, and the victims' families struggled to rebuild their lives. Michael, now alone, carried the scars of that night forever. Michael was taken in by distant relatives, but the trauma of what he witnessed haunted him every day. He had constant nightmares and avoided crowded places. The entire town seemed to be in perpetual mourning, with future celebrations marked by the memory of the massacre. Months passed and the town tried to heal, but rumors began to emerge of new sightings of the masked killer. Some said he was back, ready to continue his reign of terror. Paranoia and fear spread, and Brooksville prepared to face a new nightmare. Authorities increased security on the streets and at public events, but the fear was palpable. People looked at each other with suspicion, fearing the killer was among them. The shadow of the massacre continued to hang over Brooksville, and no one knew when or where the killer would strike again. Want part 2 of this story? Leave us a comment. If you have a horror story and want to see it published on our channel, send us your story.